Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can you all please come? We have a membership. Shut up! Shut the up!
There is a name people swear they can hear in it. Nolan, buried in a few seconds of crackling audio from a sinking boat, a distress call, played over and over, with the words printed on your screen so you know exactly what you're meant to hear. And the moment you read those words, you heard them too. A dead boy's name, a phrase that sounds like a confession, rising right out of the static. It felt certain. It felt like proof. That's not an accident. That's how this works. And tonight I'm going to show you step by step how something can feel that certain and still not be true. Because a mother is being told her son was murdered by a sound that the one expert qualified to examine it says isn't even there. This isn't about telling you what to hear. It's about something harder and more useful, what actually holds up. Because in the last few days, this case has been flooded with claims dressed up to look like evidence. An audio clip that supposedly cracks it open, a lie detector test the friends supposedly all passed, a toxicology report that turned out to be a forgery. And when you set those claims next to what the actual experts and officials say, they do not hold together the way you've been told. So let's do the thing almost no one online is doing with this case. Let's slow down and separate what's real from what only feels real. A word before we begin. This involves the death of an 18-year-old, and we'll be discussing an emotional, contested piece of audio. Nothing here is graphic. But if this case is heavy for you, please take care of yourself while you watch. If you're new here, welcome, subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We read them. And to everyone who's followed this case with us from the start, thank you. Your patience with careful coverage in a story that rewards the opposite is the whole reason this channel exists. Let's start with the audio, because it's the center of everything right now. Here's what actually happened, stripped of the drama. An audio engineer named Janetta Brantley took the distress call, the same call the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources released publicly, and ran it through editing software. She isolated channels, boosted certain frequencies, and raised the volume on the faint chatter underneath the main call. And she came away convinced she could hear specific alarming phrases in the noise. A name, the suggestion that Nolan was already gone. She spent hours on just the first half minute of it. Now, I want to be fair to her, because this matters, and it's a piece most of the coverage skips. By every account, she did not set out to frame anyone. She said, in her own words, that she wanted this to be an accident, the way most people did. She was up early, saw the case, and started working on the audio, almost the way you'd pick at a puzzle. She believes what she heard. I'm not questioning her sincerity for a single second. I'm questioning something else entirely. Whether what she believes she heard is actually there. Because sincerity and accuracy are two different things. You can be completely honest and completely mistaken at the same time. And that gap is the whole story tonight. So here is where you meet the expert. Almost none of the viral videos will show you. His name is Robert Freed. He is a digital forensic specialist, and I want you to understand what that actually means, because the title gets thrown around loosely online. This is a real discipline. It's the professional examination of audio and video evidence, verifying whether a file is authentic, whether it's been altered, and what can and cannot reliably be pulled out of it. It's the kind of analysis that stands up in a courtroom. It is not the same thing as turning up the volume on your laptop and listening hard. Freed examined the enhanced clips that were circulating, and his findings are the part you need to sit with because they're specific and they're damning to the idea that this audio proves anything. First, the enhanced version spreading online was roughly 20 seconds longer than the original call. Stop and think about what that means. 20 seconds of audio that does not exist in the source file. When a clip grows in length between the original and the enhanced copy, that is not something volume adjustment can do. Something was added, or the file was rebuilt. Second, the enhanced file carried a different digital fingerprint than the original. Every audio file has, in effect, a technical signature, and when that signature changes, it tells a specialist the file has been processed and altered in ways that go well beyond simply making it louder. And third, the most important finding of all, when Freed's team ran the audio through their analysis and transcription process, the specific phrases people were claiming to hear were not there, not faintly, not buried in the background, not present. Let me say that as plainly as I possibly can. The one person in this whole story whose actual job is analyzing this exact kind of evidence could not find the words that millions of people are certain they heard. And Freed said something else that I think is the single most honest sentence anyone has offered about this entire audio saga. He admitted that when he first heard what people claimed was in the recording, his own mind went straight to it too. He heard it at first, and then he did the work, and the work didn't back it up. That's what an expert sounds like. Not, I hear it, therefore it's real. Instead, I hear it, so let me find out whether it's actually there. So how do you explain that gap? How can so many people, good, careful, well-meaning people, be so sure they hear something a forensic analyst can't find in the file? The answer is one of the most well-documented quirks of the human brain. And once you understand it, I promise you will never listen to a clip like this the same way again. It's the real reason this case has spun the way it has. When you take unclear, noisy audio, and you show someone the words first, printed right there on the screen, the brain does something automatic and almost impossible to switch off. It stops listening and starts matching. It takes that mess of sound and forces it into the shape of the words you just read. You are not discovering a hidden message. You are hearing the caption. Your mind is laying the text over the noise like a stencil and filling in the gaps with what it was told to expect. Here's the proof that it's the caption doing the work and not the audio. Play that exact same clip for a different group of people, show them different words on the screen, and they will swear just as confidently that they hear those instead. The sound never changed, only the suggestion did. And their certainty followed the suggestion every time. You may have run into this yourself in those viral clips that make the rounds every so often. The ones where the same short sound seems to say two completely different words depending on which one you're told to listen for. One caption, and you hear the first word so clearly you can't imagine hearing anything else. Switch the caption, and the second word snaps into place just as cleanly. That is not a party trick. That is your own perception, filling a blank with whatever it was handed. And in a case like this one, emotionally charged, with a grieving family, with words on the screen as alarming as, "He's dead," and a name you already know, that effect is not small. It is overwhelming. It's practically designed to convince you. Even one of the attorneys close to this case saw exactly what was happening and named it. He called the circulating audio, paired with its neat little transcript, a kind of psychological game people play with garbled sound, where the transcript does the convincing, not the recording. And separately, a retired federal investigator who listened to the original, unedited call said he heard nothing sinister in it at all. Just frightened young people trying to deal with a boat that was taking on water and going down. So where does that leave the audio, honestly? Let me be precise, because precision is the whole point. It leaves it exactly here, unverified, not proven fake, not proven real. A clip that no credible independent expert with access to the original file has been able to confirm says what people claim it says, and at least one qualified specialist who found concrete, technical reasons to doubt it. That is the honest status, full stop. Anyone telling you it's a confession is getting ahead of the facts. And anyone telling you it's definitely, provably nothing is doing the very same thing from the other direction. The truthful answer is that it does not hold up as evidence, and until the original file is examined by experts under a clear chain of custody, it simply can't. If you appreciate getting the careful version of a story instead of the loud one, do me a small favor and subscribe. On this case especially, that difference is the entire value. Now to the second claim, because it fell apart under almost exactly the same kind of scrutiny, and once you've seen the pattern once, you'll spot it instantly the second time. You've almost certainly heard somewhere in your scrolling that Nolan's friends all took a polygraph and passed. It's been repeated everywhere, confidently, like a fact that closes the door. It sounds like it settles something. It does not, and here is exactly why. That claim traces back to a single interview in which a commentator said, in his own careful words, that from his understanding the friends took a test and passed. Watch how fast it comes apart the moment you look closely, instead of just repeating the headline. In nearly the same breath, he admitted three things that gut the claim. He admitted he wasn't there. He admitted he was going entirely on what he'd been told by others. And, this is the one that matters most, he admitted that not all of them took it. Warren Hudson, one of the central young men in this whole story, did not take the test at all. Then an actual expert stepped in, and the picture changed completely. His name is George Olivo, and he spent more than 2 decades as an FBI polygraph examiner. This is a man who has administered these tests for a living, at the highest level. And he explained that what was being described didn't sound like a polygraph at all. It sounded like something quite different and far weaker, a tool called a voice stress analyzer. The distinction here is not a technicality, it's the whole ball game, so let me walk you through it. A real polygraph measures things you cannot consciously control. It tracks your heart rate and your blood pressure through a cuff. It measures your respiration, not just how fast you breathe, but the depth of it, whether your breathing goes shallow or whether you have to pause and steady yourself. And it measures the electrical activity of your skin through sensors on the fingers, because your sweat response shifts when you're under stress in ways you can't fake. All of that while a trained examiner asks a very carefully built sequence of questions. And here's the thing that should stop the "they passed a polygraph" crowd cold. Even a real, properly administered polygraph is considered so unreliable that its results are generally not allowed as evidence in a criminal trial at all. Not unless both sides agree to it in advance, which almost never happens. That's how much weight the court system actually puts on the gold standard version of this test. Now compare that to a voice stress analyzer. Instead of all those physical measurements, it tries to detect stress in the sound of your voice alone. And the scientific support for it is weak enough that serious examiners treat it with real skepticism. The expert on that panel put it about as bluntly as it can be put. If you actually wanted to help someone pass, the voice stress test is precisely the one you'd choose to give them. He made one more point that professionals live by, and it applies to this case perfectly. He said no test like this, not even a real polygraph, should ever be treated as a final verdict. It's one piece of a puzzle, an investigative tool, and nothing more. The people waving "they passed" around online are treating a weak tool as a closed case. That's not how any of this actually works. So let's assemble the real picture, the honest one. Not all the friends passed a polygraph. Instead, some of them reportedly took a far less reliable test. At least one central figure took nothing at all. No official agency has confirmed that any testing even happened, and the entire claim rests on a single second-hand account from someone who wasn't in the room. That is not a clearing of anyone. It's a rumor wearing the costume of one. Do you see the pattern yet? The audio and the polygraph are the same story told twice. Take something with a scientific-sounding surface, an enhanced recording, a lie detector, strip away the part where the experts explain its limits, and hand the public a clean, confident headline. It feels like proof. It functions like proof in a comment section, but it isn't proof. And this exact machinery is what's been running this entire case for weeks. And here's how far that machinery will go. At one point, an actual toxicology report for Nolan started circulating on social media, passed around as if it were the real leaked findings. It was a forgery, a fake, And it took Mississippi's own public safety commissioner going public to say so directly, calling the circulating report fraudulent and saying that Nolan's family, his friends, and most of all Nolan himself deserved better than that. Think about what it takes for a state official to have to step in and personally debunk a counterfeit document about a dead teenager. That is the information environment this family is grieving inside of. It gets worse, and I want to warn you about it plainly because it can actually reach into your life. Around cases like this, entire networks of fake articles spring up, many of them generated by artificial intelligence, inventing forensic experts who don't exist, inventing findings that were never made, and putting quotes in the mouths of pathologists who never said them. Some of these pages exist for a darker reason still. They dangle a supposed full autopsy download or leaked report to bait you into clicking, and the link is a trap designed to compromise your device. So let me say this once, clearly. There is no leaked autopsy. There is no downloadable secret report. If a page is offering you one, it is either lying to you, trying to harm your computer, or both. Close the tab. This is exactly why the standard we keep coming back to matters so much. In a case this saturated with fakes, the only safe move is to trust named officials and credentialed experts, and to treat everything else as unconfirmed until it's proven otherwise. Which brings us to the one document in this entire case that isn't a rumor, isn't a forgery, and isn't an illusion. The state's actual autopsy. Mississippi officials have confirmed it's finished. It was performed the day after Nolan was found, and it is sealed, going to a grand jury before anyone, including his own parents, is permitted to see it. I know exactly how that lands. In a case already swimming with secrecy and suspicion, they've sealed the report. Sounds like one more cover-up stacked on all the others. So let me give you the honest version, because it's less sinister than it sounds, and in a way it's more frustrating. In this particular Mississippi county, the district attorney has explained that nearly every death that isn't plainly natural or an ordinary traffic accident goes to a grand jury before its findings are released to the public. That is not something being done uniquely to Nolan or to punish this family. It's described as the standard practice there and has been for years. The DA has said, in essence, that her office's restraint in releasing facts isn't an attempt to hide the truth from the public, it's an effort to protect the integrity of the investigation and the grand jury process, which by law is meant to be secret. There's also a structural detail worth understanding, because it explains who's actually holding the report. Mississippi handles these cases through both a state medical examiner and a locally elected county coroner. Here, a coroner named Bruce Lind Jr. The coroner doesn't perform the autopsy himself, but he's a gatekeeper for the records, and the prosecutor can direct that the report be held while the investigation is active. So the sealing by itself is not evidence of anything hidden. It's the machinery working the way it normally works. But, and this is the part that is genuinely, humanly hard, none of that changes what it feels like for two parents to be told that a finished report, one that explains how they lost their son, physically exists, and that they are not allowed to read it. Both of those things are true at the same time. The process may be completely ordinary. The pain of it is anything but. And until that grand jury meets, with no date yet set, none, that's where this sits. Ordinary procedure, extraordinary grief, locked together. Before we go on, if this is the kind of breakdown you wish more channels would do, the boring, careful, this is what we actually know kind, subscribing genuinely helps this reach the people drowning in the other version. There's a related thread I have to clear up, because it keeps getting waved around as though it settles the case, in one direction or the other. The question of whether Nolan had been drinking that day. Here's the careful truth, and it's more subtle than either camp wants it to be. We do not have a confirmed toxicology result. It's part of the sealed report. And even when it finally comes, a forensic pathologist has already warned that it won't be as simple as reading a number off a page. Because a body that has been in warm water for days and has begun to break down can actually produce alcohol on its own, after death, through natural processes, entirely unrelated to anything the person drank while alive. That's not a loophole, it's basic forensic science. So a raw reading, on its own, would not prove Nolan was drinking that day. It would have to be interpreted by an expert who accounts for the state of the body and how much time had passed. Which means anyone who eventually takes a toxicology number and waves it around as a simple, obvious answer, in either direction, whether to say, "See, he was reckless," or "See, he was stone sober," will be, once again, getting ahead of the science. You've now been inoculated against that one before it even arrives. When you see it, remember this moment. And there's a new piece of video that surfaced this week too. Footage of a boat, with a genuine dispute over what time it was actually recorded, that some people believe may show Nolan. So let me tell you exactly what's confirmed about it, which is not much. His face is not shown in it. Authorities have not tied the boat to him. The timestamps attached to it don't even agree with each other. One account puts it hours off from another. It's a lead. It may turn out to matter a great deal, or it may turn out to be nothing. But right now it is not confirmed to be Nolan, and I am not going to tell you that it is, just because certainty would make a better thumbnail than honesty. Now, I've spent most of tonight on what doesn't hold up. So let me be just as clear about what does, because this family's fight is real, and it deserves to be stated in facts, not fog. What holds up is this. There is a completed state autopsy, sealed and headed to a grand jury, that even the parents have not seen. There is an independent examination done by a highly respected former chief medical examiner that came back undetermined, a word that cuts both ways, because it means he could neither confirm foul play nor rule it out. He noted an area of discoloration at the back of the head that another expert has said could be the result of decomposition or could be the result of an injury, unresolved, genuinely, and not proof of either. There are 2 arrests, both for threats, vicious ones, made by strangers who live hundreds and even thousands of miles from that island, neither of them connected to Nolan's death, neither of them ever on that boat. And there is a family carrying a grief most of us can't imagine, while being harassed and threatened themselves, simply for asking questions about how their son died. Those are the solid facts. Notice how different they feel from the viral ones. They're quieter. They don't resolve into a neat villain. They leave the biggest questions still open. But every one of them is real, and that's worth more than 100 clips that only feel real. So let's land this honestly and hold 2 lists side by side. What actually holds up? A sealed autopsy on its way to a grand jury. An independent result that came back undetermined. 2 threat arrests, far from the island, unconnected to the death. A grieving, harassed family that wants nothing more than a real answer. What does not hold up, at least not yet? An audio clip no credible expert with the original file can confirm that grew 20 seconds and changed its digital signature along the way. A polygraph claim that was never a polygraph and never even applied to everyone. A toxicology conclusion that nobody actually has, and a forged report so brazen the state had to step in and call it fake. These are not answers. They are the appearance of answers. And telling the difference between the two is the entire job right now. For me, and honestly, for you too. Nolan Wells was 18 years old. He was days away from a college football season he had worked years of his life to reach. He deserves an answer built on evidence. The real thing, examined properly, tested, and if it comes to it, sworn to under oath. Not a caption laid over a noisy clip. Not a rumor about a test that was never given. Not a forged document passed around for clicks. The actual truth, whatever it turns out to be, wherever it leads. And that truth is worth waiting for, and worth demanding, precisely because right now it's being buried under so much that only looks like it. We'll stay with it, the way we have from the beginning, the sealed autopsy, and whenever that grand jury finally meets, the toxicology, and how it's actually interpreted once it lands, any real forensic examination of the original audio under a proper chain of custody. And whatever the subpoenaed records eventually turn up, the moment there is something verified to tell you, something that holds up, you will hear it here, and not 1 second before. Before you go, I want your honest read, because you've now got the full picture. Of everything we covered tonight, the disputed audio, the sealed autopsy, or the toxicology still to come, which one do you believe will finally give this family a real answer? And be honest about a second thing while you're down there. Before tonight, had you heard that audio and believed it? There's no shame in it if you did. That was the whole point of how it was made. Tell us in the comments. We read every single one. And if you'd rather have the version of a story that waits for the facts than the one that chases the clip, subscribe and turn on notifications. Anyone can tell you what to hear. We would much rather tell you only what we can actually stand behind. If you have original, unedited photos or video from Horn Island on the 4th of July, please contact the Jackson County Sheriff's Office directly. Thank you for watching. Be careful with what you share, be kind to the people inside these stories, and we will see you on the next update.